Welcome into Game on Demand. I'm Ryan Porth here alongside Willy Daunic in his ESPN bookshelf home studios. I believe, Willy, Jason Stark used to own that bookshelf back when he was with ESPN.
He's an inspiration. Of course, it feels like if you're the ESPN, you got to have the bookshelf in the background. Also, there's no window behind you, so it doesn't create the glare. But I do have Jason's book, The Stark Truth, right here. One of the many promotional books that we got sent through the years here. Darren can attest. Darren has a lot of the same books I do, I think.
Well, one of those books may be on Darren's bookshelf behind him. Darren, I love the Titans and Preds jerseys in the background as well for your and Lauren's anniversary.
Yeah, that was our sign-in. That was our guest registry for our wedding. We had those displayed. Willie remembers, and you just went up and you signed one of the jerseys. Yeah. And so we had them framed afterwards, and hey, I give Lauren all the credit. That was a great idea, and as you can see today, 12 years later, it still is. We still enjoy it like it just happened yesterday.
Well, maybe Amanda and I will steal that idea come June 27th, one day before your anniversary there, Darren.
But she better not have a Blackhawks jersey.
I think that would be part of the deal. It would be a Preds jersey and Blackhawks. But that's a different story for a different –
Go Bulls or Cubs or White Sox, whatever, just a neutral, not a rival.
We could do Titans and Bears. Titans and Bears might fit.
I might sign her jersey in spray paint.
With gold spray paint?
Gold spray paint? Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go live to Chase McCabe. I can't see him right now, but Chase McCabe, live from Gulf Shores. Chase, how's it kicking?
It's great. Nobody's down here. Snuck down here last night, for some social distancing. So just hanging out. It's looking good. Got the cooler sitting over here for after this. So gonna have a good time.
That's a lot of.
Nobody's within 600 feet of Chase.
That's how we're working this. Let's just stay very, very far away.
So rumor has it Chase's location may change during this broadcast. But guys, I wanted to bring you three in, Darren, Daunic, and Chase, weekdays 10 to 2 on ESPN 102.5 The Game, and discuss the Nashville Sports Bracket up to this point. So Tuesday through Friday this week, we had round one voting, and on Monday at 102.5 The Game on Twitter, we have round two voting starting, and want to break down the bracket here, kind of region by region. And guys, you can see the Jeff Fisher region, which was the first region that the audience voted on, and you can tell by a few of these matchups there was a lot of recency bias with Taylor Lewan topping Thomas Vokoun, Derek Barnett squeezing by Shane Foster, a UT Vol beating a Vanderbilt Commodore. Sorry there, Willie. And Ryan Tannehill defeating R.A. Dickey. Guys, let's start with you, Willie. What were kind of your thoughts as you saw the votes come in on the Jeff Fisher region and see the second round matchups here?
Well, we discussed this a lot on the show during the week. It seems like the players, the athletes that played a long time ago locally, and maybe even on the college level, but are a little bit removed from their stardom, didn't seem to do as well. And this was the first day. So I thought it was interesting how it went down. And, of course, Taylor Lewan jumped right in and got his circle of social media people to help back his cause, which I think certainly helped. That's become a big factor throughout the week, and I think it will happen moving forward here. And so it's a pretty heavily Titans-influenced bracket. The one that we didn't mention was Ryan Tannehill, who we had a pretty heavy discussion on whether he was eligible for the field. And he beat R.A. Dickey, kind of like 55-45, R.A. Dickey being one of the most decorated Nashvillians to come through and spanned a pretty good portion of the last 30 years. And Ryan Tannehill's influence in Nashville is part of 1 year. So it's been interesting how it's gone down, but I think we got some pretty good second round matchups.
Darren, were you surprised Tannehill topped Dickey?
I think what surprised me the most, Ryan, is it looks like there's a good swift breeze their oceanfront. You can tell with the trees in the background. Chase just changed the background, but his hair isn't moving. So how is that? It looks like it's very windy where Chase is, but his hair is not moving at all.
Well, I just stepped inside to ESPN has a studio down here.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just stepped inside, so that's
ESPN Gulf Shores.
Yep.
That Willie brought up some good points. It was interesting to see people, and we had R.A. Dickey on. We had a fantastic interview with R.A. Dickey, and of course he was making his case on why he should advance. And, quite honestly, I agreed with him. But Ryan Tannehill, recency bias, he got the contract extension. He took him to the AFC Championship game. Taylor won, as Willie mentioned. Will Compton even jumped in as his partner on the podcast, busting with the boys, getting the word out. And those guys advance. Derek Barnett beating Shane Foster. I know somebody, at least on this panel, probably disagrees with that. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying right when we unveiled it on Monday's show, I kind of sensed that could be an upset in the making. And sure enough, Derek Barnett advanced as the 11 seed. And as we would find out, and we're going to get to here soon, the 11 seed would be the upset special in the tournament.
For sure.
Yep.
Chase, what did you make of round one?
Yeah, I agree with what those guys were saying. I thought R.A. Dickey was going to be able to get by and advance, but so I was a little surprised by that. The outpouring of support for the boy by the Bussin' with the Boys crew was cool to see. I mean, I was glad that they jumped in on that, but I think he's got a tough matchup against Steve McNair. Javon Curse sacking Jay Cutler, no surprise. PK Subban intercepting Vince Young, no surprise. Barnett surprised me a little bit. Keith Bullock did not. And like I said, with R.A. Dickey, and Ryan Tannehill, you can say what you want about that, but and then Roman Yossi was no contest. So the biggest surprise for me was definitely that R.A. Dickey fell to Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Now, how about this? PK Subban against Javon Curse.
That's exactly where I was going. Yes.
That's a matchup to watch, I think.
That is going to be the matchup.
How much popularity does PK still have? And, of course, Javon Curse has been removed from the Nashville scene for a long time, but he made his mark. So I think that's going to be a really fun one.
Well, both of them, with PK, 3 years in a Preds uniform, and then Javon Curse, the first stint was shortened by injury, and then he signed with Philadelphia. He came back in the 08 season, but really high-level stints with the Preds and Titans respectively, but in shorter spurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Vince Young, us talking about him on this bracket, and then I don't know if you guys did the 06 championship game against USC the other night, and I'm sitting there watching him lead that comeback, and I put it out on Twitter of just how frustrating it is sometimes for Titans fans to see what might have been, and then ultimately what his career became. It just wasn't what anybody thought, but
yeah. And Lindell White in that game
Lindell White, yeah.
He played a great game in that game. Remember how much they lobbied to get Lindell White picked as the second pick. So those were the first two draft picks of the next Titans draft after that game. So
right.
Everything looked great at that point. Those guys had some high profiles.
Did Lindell White eat some double cheeseburgers from McDonald's at halftime of that game?
Cannot confirm. Cannot confirm if there were cheeseburgers and tequila, but not sure.
So,
by the way, Derek Barnett, I am also intrigued by Derek. We did talk to Keith Bullock with his first round matchup against Ingle Martin. Now, Keith Bullock cruised. I'm not so sure he's going to cruise against Derek Barnett. I think we found out. I don't know if you guys were surprised or not, but I think we found out that Derek Barnett is a pretty popular guy, not only because, he played here in Nashville in high school, but, what he did for the Vols. I mean, he was a very, very popular guy at UT, and I am curious to see how that matchup goes. I think Keith Bullock is going to be in for a fight with Derek Barnett in that second round matchup.
Well, in that first round matchup, this is what we discovered on the first day, that because this is a Twitter-based voting process, the people that had the ability to get the word out to their followers was big. And so Shane Foster, he did alert his followers. Vanderbilt basketball alerted their followers. But Derek Barnett had an engine going from somewhere. I don't know if it was from him, from Tennessee.
A lot of, I was going to say Vols fans.
Yes. And so that turnout, I thought that was great. That got everybody into this. And so I think our voter turnout was awesome in the first week. And it was helped by those guys, starting with Taylor Lewan, right? So now, does Taylor Lewan go after his following to try to beat Steve McNair? That would be a pretty big upset.
Well, when we unveiled the bracket Monday, Will Compton tweeted before the voting ever started. He said he's going to go all out for the boy. So I don't think they're going to let up on Monday when the voting begins between Steve McNair and Taylor Lewan.
All right.
Yeah, don't see it. They're going to push. They're
going to be that pesky 9 seed, but maybe the 1 seed prevails. Let's take a look at the Ryan Tannehill versus Roman Josi challenge there in the second round. Tannehill upsetting R.A. Dickey, but I would be surprised, guys, starting with you, Darren. I would be surprised if Tannehill upsets Josi in the second round.
Yeah, that early line coming in at -8.5 for the 2 seed Roman Josi. So you can tell that the odds makers feel like he's a pretty sizable favorite as a 2 seed. Ryan Tannehill and the Titans fans, he's not going to go away quietly. But in the end, I think the captain and Roman Josi and his body of work, I mean, I know he's in the prime of his career, but we've been talking about Pekka's popularity for a long time. And guys like Pekka Rinne and Shea Weber, and you're going to say Roman Josi is just going to be in the same category as those guys, and Mike Fisher, just their popularity is going to live with them forever in this market. And Roman, as you can tell, is a wildly popular guy. Everybody loves Roman Josi, and in the end, I think he will win, and he will cover the -8.5.
Calls a cover.
All right, so real quick, guys, do you see chalk in round 2 in the Jeff Fisher region, or do you see any upsets here?
I think there's going to be an upset.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really count. The biggest one that we've pointed out is the 4 versus 5. So it's not really right. I mean, that line is 1.5. So it's basically a pick 'em. So I don't know if you can find out. I mean, obviously Derek Barnett, if he wins, that would be
Barnett would be the one
that would be the upset. But I think Taylor Lewan and Tannehill will fight, and I think they'll give the 1 and 2 seeds a fight, but in the end, they won't have enough. And McNair and Josi will move on. But I think it's those 2 in the middle. But I don't know if I could – yeah, I mean, Barnett is going to classify as an upset. So, yes, there could be an upset. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I'm not calling it. But I'm saying it could be the upset.
I think Vol Twitter is going to have an impact on this. That's what I think. I think Vol Twitter probably gets behind Derek Barnett, and that could lead to something.
So let's move to the Tim Corbin region over on West End. And looking at the round 1 voting, I was considering what happened on day 1 with Derek Barnett. I was a little surprised that Brant Snedeker hung in there against Jawan Jennings, another very popular UT ball, Willie.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think Derek Barnett is a more decorated player than Jawan Jennings. I mean, first-round pick, Super Bowl ring, probably a bigger impact while playing for Tennessee than Jawan Jennings, although Jennings certainly had his moments for sure. But, yeah, Snedeker, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time and, of course, goes way back. That's what I thought would happen more in more of the matchups, but it didn't happen in every matchup. So Snedeker gets the nod, and now he's got a tough one against Frank Wycheck for sure.
Darren, the one that may have surprised me equally was the fact that Paul Correa edged John Henderson. Going into this, I thought maybe we seeded John Henderson a little low, but Paul Correa, even though he only spent 2 years in a Preds uniform, pushes through past John Henderson, the beast from Procon.
Hall of Fame hockey player, and for people in this town that were covering the team or around the team or were going to games or watching, were huge fans, you remember the significance of Paul Correa to this market. I mean, he was the first name because the fans, Willie knows, were screaming, is a big name going to come to Nashville and play for the Predators. And Paul Kariya was a guy that wasn't traded here. He was a guy who chose Nashville. And I think that was huge significance as Chase continues to be on the move during this. But huge significance. Look, John Henderson, if anybody didn't get a chance to see him, I mean, he was a fantastic athlete and had significance in this market. Isn't that surprised that Kariya advanced? I think, quite honestly, Paul Kariya, David Price could get really interesting.
Yeah.
That could be a really interesting matchup.
In fact, I think you guys may disagree. I think this is the most wide open of the four quadrants. This is the Tim Corbin region is wide open. I can see almost anybody coming out of it.
I agree with that.
You said it, and because of what we've learned in the first week, that the engines, the recency, who's got some Twitter followers, I think that they all play a big factor. And so, I mean, look at Kevin Byard. I think you talk about his popularity. That's an interesting. I think the 1 versus 8 and the 2 versus 7 are both up for grabs.
For sure. Chase, let's get your breakdown of the 6-11 matchup. Ryan Suter, I don't think it was a surprise to anybody that Ryan Suter gets upset. Let's go to Chase McCabe outside of Nissan Stadium across the river.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Suter had a chance in that one. I mean, I think we saw that. Jordan Matthews. Yeah, he got booed. Boo. Jordan Matthews that we had on our show, I mean, he led wire to wire. I don't think he was ever in any danger at all. So he gets it done. I'm not surprised. This town has not forgiven Ryan Suter for how he left. I don't know if they're ever going to get over it. But, so that the 6th seed was, I guess, a nice honor for him, but I never thought he had a chance. That was easily going to be an 11-6 upset.
Isn't it amazing how popular Ryan Suter was when he was here?
Yeah.
7 years later, they're still booing him. He was extremely popular.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember, but when I first started doing the locker room interviews, one of the first interviews I did was Ryan Suter the year after he left, and I asked him the question of, you get that this building is full of energy. Now you get a different type of energy, which was a nice way of saying you get booed. Do you feed off that? And he said it affects my teammates more than it really affects me. Like, they hear that and it kind of fires them up. But it was a very well thought out answer. But now, however many years later, it still happens whenever he comes here. He touches the puck. That Ryan Suter is on the ice. So
let's take a look at round 2 here. You guys mentioned Byard versus Weber. Willie, could you see Kevin Byard and some of the recency bias and his success in a Titans uniform pushing through and upsetting the mighty Shea Weber, a 2 seed?
I can see it because Kevin Byard's got the Middle Tennessee crowd that really has a lot of pride and wants to back him. Of course, he's become a very popular Titan. He's played at the top level the last couple of years. And Shea Weber, even though if you look at the long haul, has definitely done more in the city of Nashville over the last 30 years. But he's removed now from the Predators. I don't know how much the Predator fan base will flock to him, even though I do think a lot will. I think he's very worthy of being a 2 seed. But I think this is really intriguing. I think this could be a very, very close vote. Very close. And I could see Byard pulling the upset.
Darren?
I think that, like I said, Kariya and Byard, what we were just discussing, keep close tabs. The 9 seed and the 7 seed, that could get real. I think I'll tell you what was interesting to me in the first round is people on Twitter saying, the Vols fans going, who is Brant Snedeker? And it's like, come on. You don't know who Brant Snedeker – come on. Snez deserves better than that.
From Nashville. If you're sitting in Knoxville, you may not be as familiar.
Yeah, maybe they were at the other end of the state. I don't know. But how do you not know Brant Snedeker? I mean, come on. He's going to have his hands full. We had a great conversation with Snedeker. That'll be an interesting matchup, the 4 or 5 again, like they always are. Jordan Matthews, we love. He's a friend of the show. We love having him on. He's going to grad school at Northwestern. He's a smart cat, and he'll be able to do whatever he wants to do, life after football. and he was a fantastic player at Vanderbilt. But that's probably the only one I don't need. Yeah. As much as I root for Jordan Matthews, I see no chance that he upsets CJ2K. Chris Johnson will move on, which will set up whoever comes out, Byard or Shea Weber. That will set up quite the matchup in the next round.
Are you guys a little surprised at how well loved Chris Johnson still is? I know he had the 2,000-yard season. He was a highlight reel waiting to happen, but he had the holdout. The end of his Titans career did not end well. He really fell off a cliff in a Titans uniform and wasn't the same back. Are you guys surprised that he is still so well loved? I mean, he won in a landslide over Jalen Hurd. It was probably 94, 95%.
Yeah, and he lost to a cheetah too. I mean, put that on his resume. He couldn't even beat the cheetah. So
he won the Tiger King.
I think the level that he electrified the fans was big. But I would also say he has gotten a pretty favorable draw here. I think what we've learned too with Jalen Hurd and his high school accolades. He had a record-setting year his junior year at Beach. Just lit up all the lights. Pretty hot, obviously he could have gone anywhere in the country, I think, to play college football, but that was a pretty easy matchup for Chris Johnson. And then Jordan Matthews not being on Twitter, right? He used to be a pretty high-level Twitter guy, but he's not there anymore. And so I think this is a good setup for Chris Johnson and his strengths to play out because, I mean, everybody remembers the memories that Chris Johnson created, for sure.
All right, so the voting will take place for the Tim Corbin and Jeff Fisher regions, round 2. That will be on Monday. Tuesday, the voting for the Phil Bredesen region will take place. And the biggest debate of the entire bracket was Kevin Dyson's inclusion into the bracket. And he topped Ron Mercer, went to Good Pasture, played college basketball or high school basketball there. But Kevin Dyson with the upset over Mercer, Blaine Bishop with the upset over Golden Tate, and Kimo Timonen at the buzzer defeating Albert Hainsworth. A handful of upsets here in the Phil Bredesen region, Chase.
Yeah, and that one was fun to watch. Eddie George, no surprise at all by anybody, but like John Jenkins and Steve Sullivan, that was a tight matchup. And, Sullivan, I guess you just kind of saw that he hadn't been around for a while. And John Jenkins was able to rally and use social media. The Robbie Stanley dubbed this the nice guy bowl between Mike Fisher and Marcus Mariota. That was no contest, but Kimo Timonen, that we saw Hal Gill get a rally behind Kimo Timonen, and that seemed to work. And Blaine Bishop was another one that, I just think Golden Tate, not many people remember him at JP2. They know him more for Notre Dame and his NFL career. So Blaine Bishop able to move on there. But Kevin Dyson, you talked about it. That was the biggest upset. So I thought that was very interesting. That shows you how important that Music City Miracle play, and even the play that we don't like to talk about, those two plays he will always be remembered for. And therefore Titans fans were able to help him advance. And then B-Hop takes care of business, and so does Mookie.
Did you get on a rocket ship at Nissan Stadium? And are you in space? Where are you now?
I am.
Okay.
Yep.
Where's you took your helmet off? You got?
I did. Yeah. I'm in my spaceship, so I'm good.
Okay.
There's oxygen in here.
There's not as much social distancing rules up there in space because they're already distanced pretty heavily up there.
Jared used this before, so there's a lot of air in here, a lot of hot air in here. So
wow. Wow.
So
shade.
Darren and Willie, you guys had a pretty spirited debate over Kevin Dyson and the fact that he was the centerpiece of the Music City Miracle, obviously having a big influence on that round 1 vote over Ron Mercer. Should be an interesting round 2 vote, Darren, between Kevin Dyson and Blaine Bishop.
I know that Kevin Dyson created a lot of talk, and my feelings. I thought Kevin Dyson, it was a no-brainer for me to put him in because there are 2 plays that in this market, this is called Nashville Sports Bracket that we'll never, ever get away from. And that is, whether your career is made up of 2 plays or not, those 2 plays were on humongous stages. I mean, Music City Miracle and that win over the Bills, and then getting tackled at the 1.5 yard line, maybe 2 yard line, even though we always say 1. We will never forget. That's how the Super Bowl ended. And Kevin Dyson's presence, Dr. Dyson, his presence still in Nashville today, he's still doing stuff with the Titans. And, of course, he's been a coach. He's been an athletic director. He's doing it all. Still a heavy presence in here. Blaine Bishop is no different. I think this is going to be an unbelievable matchup. And I have no idea how Blaine Bishop and Kevin Dyson. I suspect this thing is headed for overtime. It is a pick'em. It's the 11 versus 14. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to overtime and somebody gets 50.5% of the votes to advance.
Yeah.
Willie, when you look at the 4-12 matchup here in round 2, Mike Fisher versus Kimo Timonen, 2 Preds going head-to-head there, 2 former captains as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really intriguing matchup for sure. We're going to try to get Kimo on the show next week. I was glad to see him pull off the upset. And if you look at this bracket, I think it really screams at you, especially with Bishop an 11 seed, Dyson a 14 seed winning easily, by the way, is the impact that those early Titans teams still have on all of us today. There's so many players from that group that have advanced, and I think a lot of them will continue to advance. But those are the guys that avoided the recency bias, right? And of course, Blaine Bishop and Kevin Dyson are still top of mind. They're still local. Of course, they work together on Titans radio broadcasts. So, they've still stayed, in the fresh in, I think, a lot of sports fans' mind. But I think it's those teams that just shows you kind of how special those teams were. But Timonen and Fisher, 2 100% class guys too. Just that divides the Predator group. They're going to have to choose between one of those 2 guys. That's going to be a tough choice for a lot of people. I would definitely favor Mike Fisher, but getting back to your original point, this is what everybody's got to decide. Is you think about those impact plays. I thought of it more when we were putting the field together of what did you do over the long haul? Like Kevin Dyson, I think, was on his way to a great career had he not had the really bad knee injury that he never really got back from. I think if he had not had that, I would have had an easier time saying, yeah, he's in. But his career was really cut short, but those plays seem to be carrying him right now. I was looking at more than that, and that's why a guy like Ron Mercer or some guys like that who came up short, I think have done better things over the longer period. But that's what's fun about these contests is everybody has their own philosophy of what they're voting on.
And just to close out the Phil Bredesen region, Chase, when you look at Brad Hopkins versus Mookie Betts had to withstand a lot of the popularity of Jordan Tutu there in the first round. Jordan Tutu was a pesky 15 seed. I'm really interested to see if Mookie's prowess at Overton and then the Boston Red Sox and now the LA Dodgers, if that will push through against Brad Hopkins. But this has been a bracket where a lot of the legacy Titans have been pushing through.
Yeah, well, it was funny. Brad Hopkins, when he came on our show, asked, where he was. And he goes, oh, I got to go up against Mookie. Well, I'm done, and I think that was kind of his thought. But I think you bring up a good point with the legacy Titans and that fan base. They seem to be participating in this and voting. And but I just think for B-Hop, it's going to be too tough to overcome because Mookie has just been on the scene the last few years. And, he's not in Nashville, but he's still very connected to Nashville. He still does his bowling event here and has a house here, lives here during the off season. So he's very visible in this market. So I think that Mookie Betts probably takes care of B-Hop and moves on to the next round.
We'll see if Mookie chooses to engage his fan base. And I wonder if he puts it out to Red Sox fans, if they would still remain loyal to him now that he's not on the Red Sox anymore. I don't know. Maybe he's got some Dodger fans in there. But one of the things that we should say is how much we've enjoyed talking to a lot of these guys. It's just been awesome with some of the interviews we had this week, and hopefully we'll have more of them next week as we keep catching up. They've been so gracious to join us, number one, and we've had, you can tell that their mind is in a place where, you know, they can reflect and look back on things, have fun with it. It's been some of the best interviewing I think we've done.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of fun to be able to talk to those guys, and I know we're going to continue to do it. So that's the best part of all this.
Darren,
you hear Eddie George on Thursday, go back and listen. It was fantastic.
It was radio gold, that's for sure.
Yep.
So that's a look at the Phil Bredesen region. The voting starts Tuesday. Also Tuesday, the voting will take place for the David Poyle region, where Pekka Rinne, as the 1 seed, easily topped Giddy Potts of MTSU basketball back when they were a 15 seed, and upset Michigan State as a 2. Guys, I want to start with the 4-13. Our old friend Derek Mason, D-Mace, getting nudged at the buzzer by the 13 seed Victor Arvidsson. I was very surprised by that.
Guys, I looked at this vote at 8:15 last night, and it was 50-50 exactly. It was not 50.1 to 49.9. It was 50-50. That's how close that was, and it ended up 51-49 or something. It was awfully tight. That's the closest one we had, and there were a lot of close ones.
Yep.
Couple buzzer beaters to round out the first round, huh? That was cool. It's going to set up some interesting matchups here in this David Poyle region. Sonny Gray, anybody surprised beating Jarrell Casey?
No.
Well, I figured, Ryan rallied all the Reds fans.
Absolutely not, no. And maybe I should say that because I'm a Smyrna guy. So, you know, Sonny did a lot of good in Smyrna for sure.
Well, and the Vanderbilt baseball Twitter, I think, was active on that front as well, along with Tony Kemp on the same day. Tony Kemp got a pretty decent percentage based on what a lot of 15 seeds got and 16 seeds, even though he was nowhere close to winning. But the popularity of Tony Kemp, and really for that matter, it shows you how popular Victor Arvidsson is with the fans. He's always had the heart of the fans. I think that was the only way he was going to beat. You know, we talked about how well these Titan guys have done, and Derek is right in there. D-Mace is beloved by the Titans fans for sure, but it was a special push by Arvy. I think it was almost anybody else, Predators-wise, I don't think he would have been able to pull through.
Joe Exotic didn't have any eligibility, but if he was in this bracket, like, how do you guys think he would do?
He would win.
He'd probably win.
Well, yeah. How do you seed Joe Exotic?
I mean, Joe Exotic, he's got to be a 1 seed, right?
A 1 seed.
He wasn't in prison. He would be a 1 seed. Yeah.
Carol Baskin would be a 16 seed.
Oh yeah. No, she wouldn't even make it.
Oh my.
Carol Baskin.
Joe Exotic versus Carol Baskin in a bracket.
Oh, Joe Exotic would win hands down.
Landslide.
Yep.
Landslide.
It'd be a landslide for sure.
Yeah, Joe Exotic would top off all those cool cats and kittens. Willie, you've mentioned some late pushes on Twitter. Drew Maddox had another good one too to beat Jalen Ramsey there in the first round, 14-3.
Yeah, I think Drew's presence in Nashville, I mean, he's a lifelong Nashvillian, right? He has been from start. He's a third-generation Vanderbilt player, right? So he has been known. I first met Drew when Drew was probably 14 years old. He would hang out in our locker room while he was still probably in 10th grade because he was already being recruited by Vanderbilt first and foremost, but also, you know, he was making his mark in the Vanderbilt community. So he's got a great following. Of course, he now still coaches, whereas Jalen, we know Jalen Ramsey has done all of these great things since leaving Nashville when he went to Brentwood Academy, you know, first Florida State and then Jacksonville. So he's been removed, of course, from the scene for a long time. And so Drew definitely had a good push, and he's got the following, carried him over the top to pull off the upset. And I'll say this, too. I think because Bruce Matthews is so far removed, I would not count out an upset for Drew in the second round over Bruce Matthews.
Let's go to Mr. February.
I'm seeing double. Why am I seeing two Darrens?
What are you doing? Really, did Drew's dad not used to own Fazoli's in town?
I think he owned a franchise or two of Fazoli's.
Yeah,
A
I
few
thought he owned
the franchises for sure.
Gotta love Fazoli's. The
Oh, yeah.
breadsticks. Oh, the
Fazoli's
breadsticks are so good.
Got that going for him. Yeah.
Definitely good.
Yeah. So when we look at round 2, Mr. February, what matchup stands out to you the most?
Whew. I don't see the intrigue. I don't see the upset specials as we've talked with some of the previous regions. I think Derrick Henry is just too popular right now. He's going to be too hard to tackle. He's probably going to advance. Bruce Matthews is, as we know, just wildly popular. I think although that is intriguing, there's going to be a social media push by Drew Maddox, and he certainly has a big presence in Nashville. So that one could get really interesting. By the way, 3 11 seeds advance out of 4, and 2 14 seeds out of 4 advance.
I know. Yep. David Legwand didn't break a sweat.
And Brent Peterson was like, I told you so.
I thought it was noteworthy, though, that Philip Forsberg not only beat Samari Roll, but he destroyed him. 82%
no contest
of the vote. So I think Philip Forsberg is a fairly dangerous threat.
Yes.
Henry, but Derrick Henry is as hot as.
I think he got a bad draw. That's the only reason I said that. I think I agree with you completely, but Forsberg got a bad draw. Like, whoever was going to get Derrick Henry in the second round, that was going to be bad.
Really, hit by a puck.
Is the puck in the picture somewhere after it's doinked me right on the skull? I don't see it.
I don't see it.
I don't think so.
It didn't double doink like Cody Parkey?
No, but the best look on Stu's face, because he has just seen what happened. He witnessed it.
Willie, I have to agree with you. I think Philip Forsberg is going to give Derrick Henry a push.
I think so. I agree with that. That's
just really intriguing. I understand Derrick Henry, King Henry down the stretch in the playoffs, just completely dominating. But Philip Forsberg has a strong fan base within that Preds fan base.
Well, also keep this in mind too. What day is this vote? It's going to be all the same day. Tuesday, okay? You have Pekka Rinne, Victor Arvidsson, and Philip Forsberg. So there's going to be a Predators engine, Predators presence that will be pushing all 3 of these guys to vote in a block. So if they can get a massive amount of Predator fans to vote together, I would imagine a lot of people who are voting with their heart more so than their head, which I recommend voting for who you actually think is the better athlete over the last 30 years and not just vote for your favorite athlete or team. But we know that this is going to happen some. I think that could be a factor in all of these voting practices here. And who knows whether the Titans will summon their fans on behalf of our contest here to get involved, because the Titans have a strong presence in all 4 of these regions.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's what jumps out to me is the bad draws in the David Poile region. Like, I think Forsberg and Delaney get the bad draws. I mean, I don't see them advancing, and I think those are 2 guys that could have pulled off some serious upsets and beat others. A lot of other matchups in the second round, but because they drew Pekka and they drew Derrick Henry, I don't see it. I just think that they're just a victim of circumstance. They got the bad draw, and unfortunately, I don't think they'll be able to advance. But the other 2, I think, will be intriguing. But I think in the end, I guess I'm already calling it. I think Pekka and Derrick they're going to get to each other, and that's going to be the matchup coming out of David Poile.
Well, what do we think, Chase? What do you think Arvidsson against Sonny Gray?
I think Arvidsson wins that, but I think it could be a little closer than maybe we're making it out to be, just because of Sonny's performance in the first round. But I think Arvidsson advances. I think Pekka's going to advance, but that might be a little bit closer because of Delaney's popularity and the recency bias there. But I think Pekka advances. But Philip Forsberg, Derrick Henry is going to be the one that I'm going to watch. Because I think Derrick Henry probably wins it, Darren, but I think it could be a lot closer than maybe.
Give me a percentage. Put a percentage on it. What is it?
60-40.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. I think 60-40 Derrick Henry. But, I mean, Phil, they all call him Phil. He's popular.
I'm going to predict Arvidsson and Sonny Gray is close to 50-50. I think that's going to be right down to the final hour, I think. And I think Drew Maddox will take Bruce Matthews to the final hour as well. I think that's the upset to watch for.
Good stuff, guys. Appreciate you guys joining us here on Game on Demand, a breakdown of round 2 of the Nashville Sports Bracket. Once again, voting at our Twitter account at 1025 The Game, beginning Monday morning at 9 a.m. And Darren wants everyone to know that he is Lodi strong.
That is Matt Lodi, my buddy who has been fighting cancer. His second go-around of fighting cancer. A guy that I started off in the business with. He's been covering Cleveland sports for a long time, and he's a great, great guy, and I am supporting him because he is putting up the fight. He is fighting the good fight, and right now he is winning, and I just want everybody to know that I'm thinking about Matt Lodi. And Matt, you keep doing what you're doing, man. There's a lot of people who love you. I mean, he has become the story up in Cleveland. It is amazing the coverage that he has gotten in his battle with cancer. So it just goes to show you about him and the mark he's left in that city and that market. He's been covering sports there for a long time. And he's still a relatively young guy. He's much younger. He's younger than me. And so I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
We're with you. Matt.
Been on our show quite a bit.
Long time guest for the show. Great guest. Great guy.
Good stuff, Darren. For Darren McFarland, for Willy Daunic, for Chase McCabe, now back live at Gulf Shores down there in Mississippi. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for joining us here. And reminder to everybody, you can tune into these guys weekdays 10 to 2 on ESPN 1025 The Game. And as a reminder, the Nashville Sports Bracket, every weekday until April 15th, you can vote on Twitter at 1025 The Game, starting at 9 a.m. And guys, have a great weekend, and we'll hear you guys on Monday.
All right. Sounds great.
See ya.